Welcome back. Well, you're still tuned into Fund Anatomy on CNBC-TV18. We're talking about the 20-year history about the equity fund as well as the mutual fund space. Manoj, you know, we've spoken about the 20-year history and what's happened in these past 2 to 3 decades also. But can you tell us which funds are even relevant to investors today? You said there's a lot of transition which has taken place. So what's relevant today?
Well, you know, when you analyze funds, and especially people invest for nowadays at least have started investing for 10 years, 20 years. Earlier, people used to invest with a horizon of only 2 to 3 years. Now, especially when you're investing for decades in nature, excuse me, one of the key things you have to remember is two things. You know, the entire proposition when a lot of people still think is that they are buying a mutual fund scheme. They're not really buying a mutual fund scheme. They're buying a investment philosophy and the specific characteristics of a fund manager. So in that two parameters, we have to think, you know, how these funds have evolved over a period of time and whether the investment philosophy has remained the same and as I said earlier also, there's only one fund which has seen the same fund manager. There are schemes which have seen multiple fund manager changes over a period of time. So what is more careful to note is that does the fund keep on changing its investment philosophy? Because if you're going to invest for 20 years with a certain thought process, you don't want a fund to change its investment philosophy every 2-3 years. And that has been one of the quirky things in the Indian mutual fund industry. So some of the funds which have kept their investment philosophy same are the Franklin Templeton funds, which is the Franklin Blue Chip Fund, which was launched in '93 as a large cap fund. Till date remains a large cap fund. It has seen various changes in fund manager, but it has not seen a change in its investment philosophy. The similar is the case with Franklin Prima Fund, which was launched as a mid cap fund. And again, over this period of history, it has always remained and maintained its character. One of the good things to note here, or one of the things that people should note here, is that these are two of the good performing funds, and one of the notions that people have is that over a long period of times mid caps will outperform large cap funds. Now this is a large enough history that we have right from '93 till now, almost 25 years plus. And if you see, both of the funds have given almost a 19% compounded annualized returns. Just so both of the funds, both large cap and the mid cap funds, having the same character or maintaining the character of a mid-cap have performed almost similarly. So that, in my view, demolishes the myth in India that mid-caps tend to give larger returns. So it does seem like that, the moves are more. However, over a period of time, it does get synchronized.
And that's a very important point, actually. At the end of the day, what matters is the returns that you get if you have a longer term horizon, whether it comes from mid caps or large caps. And with large caps, you have a higher degree of safety, right? With blue chips that have a better debt profile, etc. So you spoke about Franklin Blue Chip and Franklin Prima. I wanted your thoughts on some more large and mid cap funds, say something like an ICICI Pru. If someone wants to invest now, what would your recommendation be now with, say, a time horizon of about 2 to 3 years? Yeah,
so ICICI Prudential, if you remember at that point of time, earlier was just the ICICI mutual fund, and somewhere in '98, Prudential came into picture, and it was actually called the Prudential ICICI Fund because Prudential had a larger stake with 50% holding. And that was the time when they launched the Prudential ICICI Growth Fund, which is today known as the ICICI Prudential Large and Mid Cap Fund. So that is another fund which is managed by some marquee, fund managers, right, starting from Ajay Srinivasan, who was among the first CEOs of the company also, and was hands-on in managing the fund also, along with various marquee fund managers. Today it is managed, along with Shankar Narain, who is the CIO of the fund. So they manage it as a flagship fund, and I strongly believe that a large and mid-cap fund with this kind of pedigree merits attention for an investor even at this point of time.
Okay, so that's basically on ICICI Pru Large and Mid-Cap Fund, but I wanted your thoughts on Nippon India Growth Fund. It's one of your picks. Tell us why.
Yeah, so, it was erstwhile the Reliance Mutual Fund and now it has become the Nippon Mutual Fund. So these were the, they were launched as Reliance Growth Fund and Reliance Vision Fund, the twins. So two schemes in 1995 launched at the same point of time. And there is a huge return differential. So as I pointed out to you, Franklin Prima and Blue Chip were launched at the same time, but the returns have been similar. Whereas in this particular case, two funds were launched in the same point of time by the same fund house. the returns have varied a lot over a period of time. So whereas, the Reliance Growth Fund has given 22% compounded returns over this period, the Reliance Vision Fund lags a lot behind. So it's
what are the differences between the two funds?
Yeah, well, this is again a thing one has to remember. These two funds kept changing its character as they went along. The Reliance Growth Fund was launched as the large cap fund, and Reliance Vision Fund was launched as the mid-cap fund. Now today it's completely the reverse. Reliance Growth Fund is the mid-cap fund, and the Reliance Vision Fund is a multi-cap or a large and mid-cap kind of a fund. So, but it has gone through various changes. But again, these are two funds which have been managed by marquee fund managers. So it started by Madhu Kela used to manage both these funds himself when they were launched, and they are among the best performers. If you were to track their history from 95 to 2000, 2003, their performance difference between this and other funds was huge.
But did you notice that since Madhu Kela left, there has been any change in either the investor interest in the fund or the returns from the fund?
Well, I think there is there are two things that have happened. One of the size of the funds have become large, and B is there has been a distinct change in investment style, as I said, as over a period of time. Now that's never good for the investors. And
there's no clarity on what your investment style is going to be. Now today you invest in large caps, tomorrow in mid caps. I got that about these Reliance funds. Before we run out of time, I just wanted to ask you, now equities are at an all-time high.
Right.
So if one had to invest now for the next, say, 1 to 2 years, would you recommend putting fresh money into an equity fund or a debt fund, a hybrid fund? I mean, what is your own recommendation?
And I just want to add, because we're running out of time, if you have to choose one fund which you think you can see through for the next decade or 2 decades, which one would it be?
Well, sure. So that's an important question. So, when we advise people to look at mutual funds, we always say that, and that's a good change that has happened. We have started telling people think in terms of decades, 1 or 2 decades rather than 1 or 2 years. And rightly so, a lot of people are embracing this fact very, very strongly, saying that we want to invest in duration of decades. So most of the people are talking of 10 years, 20 years of investment horizon, and with SIP as a starting point. So those are some good changes in investment behavior that has happened. When you're looking at such long periods of time, we always advise people that use a concept of either a large and mid cap fund or a multi cap fund, wherein the fund manager has some flexibility in terms of allocating how much to allocate to mid and large cap. So both are counter cyclicals, which for example the last 2 years has proven that when mid caps were trading at a premium, large caps were not performing. The last 1 year has been completely different. So we believe that a combination of a multi cap and large and mid cap fund will satisfy most of the investors if you're looking at such a long duration. Okay. And some of the funds you can look at this point of time, as Ekta is asking, we believe at this point of time the Mirai funds are extremely doing well with a very strong fund manager, Nilesh Surana, who has a clear focus on how to navigate the markets in during. So that is one category of funds we kind of like. We also like the Nippon funds at this point of time, as I said, because now there is fair amount of clarity of what is the mandate for each of the funds. Yes. And Manish Gunwani, who's managing each of the funds, is extremely focused on that. And the third category from the Kotak Mutual Fund, we like the Kotak Standard Multi-Cap, but managed by Harsh Upadhyay, which is again a long-term thing that one can look at. Okay,
that is really enriching and very educational for our investors as well. Thank you so much, Manoj, for joining us and taking us through the last half hour. So thanks to all of you for watching Fund Anatomy. But don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. Lots of market action coming up on the other side of the break.